For today, we are actually going to be talking, as we read, about this experience of the Magi, or the wise men. So I don't know about you, but one of the things I think about is this phrase from one of the shows I watch a lot. So before I start, are you ready to see your fixer-upper? Does anybody else watch Chip and Joanna Gaines? Right. Are you ready to see your fixer-upper? And they've got the big picture up, and they get ready to pull it apart. And the pictures of the old house as they saw it when they first bought it, and they went in, and for some ridiculous amount of money, they do like $200,000 worth of work for like 60. It's just not possible. I know that, but I really wish I lived in Waco and they would come in and decorate my house. There's no question, because I know that I just found that to have a set of attic stairs installed in my house is going to be $1,300. And they renovate and they move beams and take out walls for 20.
They buy a house for like 79.
Well, yeah. The real estate in Waco is pretty cheap. So yeah. I mean, even some of them are in bad shape. But that we could, we sort of probably, I don't know about you, but I probably spend more time than what I should in front of both Chip and Joa and Joanna's show and other real estate shows. I don't know why. I really have no intention of buying anything. We sit and watch them. I watch Beachfront or watch this and watch that. And it's always about, the big reveal. It gets down to the end if it's one of the other shows and they're trying to decide which house to buy. And then it gets down to the end, and then of course you've got to see 18 different commercials before you get to the final decision. That's why you own a DVR and you watch a 30-minute show in like 17 and a half minutes. And you get rid of that because you're not going to wait for them for all the drama. But it's all about the reveal. It's all about what's going to happen next, what decision you're going to make, or what's it going to look like. And today, that's the focus I want to have. In the United Methodist Church, the series for today was to focus on the reveal. And yet, you think, well, wasn't the reveal on Christmas Eve? So wasn't that it? That the angels announced, and here's the birth of the King, and the shepherds came to the manger, and here we are, at least 2 years out. We figure the baby's about 2 years old or something of that sort. They have escaped Bethlehem to go to their home in Judea because they knew Herod was killing every child under 2 years old because he did not ever intend to come and worship the new king. He wanted to know where the baby was so he could get rid of the new king. So many times in the past I've read this, and I've actually read that some theologians aren't sure that the Magi really even happened. That this idea that these three kings or Magi or whoever they were, and we think three kings, we're thinking like, the king of England, the king of Persia, the king of somewhere. No, the king was a term that was used a little more loosely to wise astrologers, so that's why the Magi, the magic men, sort of, were used. And we all put them, now our manger scene does not have them there, which if we had them, we would have brought them in today, as opposed to putting them there. They weren't there at that time, at the stable. Because it says, we read in Matthew that they went to the house. Knocked on the door. Mary answered, or Joseph answered, said, "How can I help you? We're looking for the King of the Jews." Now, how'd you like to have that knock at your door? So right after having a baby, the kid's 2 years old, running around into everything, and the knock at the door says, "Hey, we'd like to see the King of the Jews." About that time, you can have him. He's tearing everything up, and his diaper needs to be changed. Thanks much. So we go in this idea, but from this text, this idea that they saw and observed the star. I've also heard and read, and it makes sense for those of you who are into astronomy, not astrology, but astronomy. Stars don't move. I mean, until they're falling. It's sort of like saying that the sun revolves. It doesn't. The sun is fixed. Stars are fixed in the sky. So how does this happen that the star moved and let us go, oh, that goes here. We get this image, and at first it sounds nice, but to the non-believer, stars aren't GPSs. You learn, if you are a pilot of an airplane or a captain of a boat, that you learn how to chart and take into consideration the curvature of the earth and all these bizarre, the mathematical things that I couldn't begin to do, and understand and follow that. Yeah, you do follow stars, but it isn't much the stars are moving as it's how they're fixed in relation to all the other constellations and the things are moving about them. So this idea becomes a big deal. We get wrapped up in that. Well, it just doesn't sound like it's right. Understand who it was written to and when it was written. So we didn't have huge computers. We didn't have all the mathematical equations, and yet the astrologers and the astronomers worked together, knowing the constellations and the movement of the stars, as they would say it. So in Matthew's the Gospel said, what we're getting is the science and the prophecy coming together. It's a combination. All right? But the fact is that we don't know exactly how these magi knew. How did they know? They're sitting around and they see this new star. It's a bright star. How did they know? And how did they know? What was it in them that led them to go, let's follow that? Well, the idea was if a new star arose and there was a new star identified, that identifying it as that of a new king was not uncommon. That's historical. That's something that was pretty common in that day and time. But for them to identify that this was a newly born king of the Jews, understand, the Magi's were anything but Jewish. They were very secular. Yet, they found this as something important to follow. And on top of it, why did they make a detour and go to Herod? Think about that. Why? All right, we're going to go follow the star. Oh, by the way, let's stop in the capital. Let's talk to the governor and tell him what we're going to do. Why did that happen? Again, what I call the coincidence, the God incident. These were part of things that the Magi themselves weren't even sure why they were doing it. So we really don't know those things, but yet we know that they happened. We don't know why. And in fairness, I'm not sure the Magi themselves knew why. So then they get there. The star, they knew was something special. They get there. They recognize the child. And as soon as they see the child, they go, oh, he's really cute. No. They bow down before him as a king, opened their treasure chest, and gave gifts. This was the big reveal. The Magi were the first to really understand what the new King of the Jews, the Messiah, Savior of the world, was about. And you go, but Rick, the shepherds went with the angels, they went there, but I don't think they knew yet. Understand, the Magi had 2 years to process this shepherd story and all of this, and finding the star and going, and what they did is what we are called to do. They followed. They sought the Messiah. They went after the Messiah. When we look at our lives, what was our big reveal? When did we know that the baby in the manger was the Savior of the world? When did it change in our lives? When did it go from being the cute little Christmas tree and the fun and all this kind of stuff, and yeah, we go to church, I understand the little baby Jesus thing, but when did it become Jesus as your Savior, Jesus changing your life, Jesus forcing you to bow down and kneel, Jesus forcing you to open up and give of your time, your talent, and your presence? So Taylor Burton Edwards wrote in The Star in the East, said what the Bible is portraying is that the star is signaling the birth of a king in Judea, according to the then current astrological the understandings had appeared in the night sky. The Magi followed the star at this point, only in the sense that the star indicated Judea as the birthplace. Now see, that's a little different view too. It wasn't like it just came right over your house and sat there. It took them into Judea. They knew that's where it's going to be. So they followed at that point. They crossed the Arabian, the desert. Now listen to this, and this will bring you into a little bit of today. They crossed the Arabian, from somewhere in the east, probably Baghdad or Tehran. Wow. Pick up the paper today. I'm sure you'll see both cities in it. And they went to Jerusalem, which was the capital of Judea, considering it as the most likely place to find him. Where else would you find a king but in the capital, right? I mean, you probably wouldn't come to Jessup or Columbia to look for the governor. You'd go to Annapolis. Right. So they were there, and they saw nothing, and then they stopped by there. They tell Herod and the others they saw his star, and they actually learned more in Jerusalem, not from the star, but from the scribes who then taught them about this prophecy. Because remember, they weren't Jewish. They didn't know. So they're there in Jerusalem with all of the leaders of Judaism, and they're talking about this star. So the prophets are saying, the scribes say, this is what the prophets said about that star. This is what's coming to pass. And then they got their next most important information actually from Herod and not the star, because Herod sent them to Bethlehem. Why? Because he knew about the shepherd story. He knew that's where it was, and he thought Jesus was still there. And Herod sent them to Bethlehem. Sure, they were following the star, but they now had human directions. They get to Bethlehem, and then they find and follow into Judea, finding out where the actual house is. So that's that proof. So beyond all proof, we needed to realize the big reveal. We're getting ready to pull it all open. What's your decision? What have you done? That's the message of the Magi. Do we see the stars in our life? I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I always see them. And I'm not sure that at times I don't see them and just go, nah, I really can't be it. I mean, how many times have you asked God for a miracle, and when it happens, you missed it? But in a few days, months, or a year, you're looking back and going, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I asked for. But it was on God's time and not my time. That's what the difference was. So when he introduced them, and we see those stars, when we're introduced to the Savior of the world, as the Magi did, they open the door, and here's the child. What do? Do we go, oh yeah, that's really nice. That's a cute little 2-year-old. Do we recognize after we follow the star, even if we identified it and follow, do we recognize at the end of that to the point that we bow down? Do we recognize that to the point that we not only bow down, but when we're introduced, that we give up our most valuable assets? We open our treasure chests? Do we really do that? Do we then give of our most valuable thing, our time? Or do we just say we just can't give any more time because our work schedule is so heavy? You know, and I got to get my sleep. And I got to run my kids to piano and sports and 14 other things, and I need to go play golf, and I need to go to the gym, and I need to do all of these things. Or do we bow down and give? Do we simply say, well, I just can't give any more, particularly of my finances, because I need that 4-car big garage. I need the luxuries of this world. So the question for today is, the Magi life was changed. Changed to the point that they even knew not to go back to Herod. Here's the governor, the king, has told them, come back and tell me, I want to go worship. And yet they knew, no, I don't think we should do that. And they went back a different way. What is your big reveal today? Because today is it. What's stopping you from beginning the journey of following the star? What's stopping you from, when you recognize the result of the star is the Savior of the world, what's stopping us from kneeling down and bowing down and giving of everything that we have? Because God's given us everything that He has. So today, when you come to the table, like the Magi went to the house, come, bow down, give of yourself back to the Messiah of the world, who came to change your life forever. That's the message of the gospel of Matthew today, the story of the Magi. That's our big reveal. They're opening it up saying, here it is. Now it's our turn to have our big reveal. Today's the day. Come when you come to the table. In Jesus' name.